What's up, everybody? Welcome to 5v5 Live. That's Eric Kummel.
Yep.
I'm at Hempstead. And as usual, we're going to bring you the latest news from the free agency, transfer window, whatever you want to call it. I know people sometimes get offended when you call it free agency because not everyone
they get
moves.
offended?
They're personally attacked,
offended.
yeah.
Wow.
And it's pretty outrageous, but because I guess some of these guys are technically free agents.
I think a lot of them aren't really free agents.
Yeah,
but I mean, contracts don't really seem to mean anything if you just buy them out pretty casually, a lot of these teams. So, it's all the same.
It's all the same. Not too much news today in terms of breaking stuff. Obviously, there's still I'll talk about. Not too much new news. Thank you, Eric, for reading off of the board there. Very nice.
Don't even have my glasses on and I read it.
But the one thing that's kind of new is the Unicorns of Love appear to have a jungler in place, and it's Trashy.
Okay. Okay.
That's a good reaction, right?
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, listen, the guy, Trashy's not bad. He's just not, he's not going to completely dominate or blow you away. But, I mean, that's not a bad signing for UOL. I mean, that mid lane and jungle, it's definitely going to be near the bottom tier of the EU duo lanes for jungle and mid with Exile in there. But maybe he somehow takes a time machine back to his 2016 self and becomes a nice young upstart mid laner again. Seems a little unlikely, but that's more so on Exile than Trashy. I mean, it's a veteran guy. I'm okay with it for UOL.
I mean, as far as junglers go, Trashy's fine. It's just the rest of the team right now is kind of up in the air. And as you said, it's Exile and Samix. They don't have a support yet. There's some top lane rumors swirling that it might be White Knight from PSG who ends up being the top lane because some guy matched Unicorns of Love Facebook post. They had that black outline image to White Knight's like best.gg picture. It's like, who are you people that are doing this? It's absurd. So maybe we have 4/5 of the team known, but other than that, there's still no support player. Yeah, this team looks nothing like it did in 2017. Definitely going to be a downgrade, but I don't think it's so much Trashy's doing as just losing guys like Chachi and Hillisang and having Exile still in the mid lane. So
yeah, and to be fair, Xerxes wasn't nearly as good in summer as he was in spring. So, I mean, bringing in a guy like Trashy might actually be an improvement from a summer version of Xerxes. But, I mean, Unicorns seem to always have this kind of makeshift roster that you're not really expecting much out of, and they end up making the playoffs. Obviously, this time they don't have their key guys in Chachi and Hillisang, the two staple guys who have been there since the beginning of the organization. So, maybe that's enough where they finally fall out of this playoff rotation. But, I mean, a guy like Sheepy's still there. He seems to be able to work some magic with different rosters. And, I mean, if it is White Knight who ends up going in that top lane, he's a super talented mechanically talented guy who's kind of been hyped up for a little while now, but never really gotten consistent looks at the LCS. So maybe this roster could do something. EU's still so up in the air, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch Unicorns of Love without any of those original members
The OG
left on the team. They're all gone now.
Goodbye.
Garnes Vichachi, Garnes Hill is saying in this new roster, which is going to have some tough competition, at least from the top 5, from what we've seen in Europe so far. The Schalkes, the Fnatics, the Misfits, the Splices, the new Splice.
The teams that have rosters, basically.
Right, and there's still a bunch of teams that have nobody or have people you don't want to have.
People worse than nobody.
Yeah, which is always great. Now Echo Fox seems to be getting closer to finally getting Huni to come over, which would be a pretty spicy signing because we all know he was a free agent after SKT said they were going to let him go. Rumors were saying, oh, Cloud9, especially with contracts on the team and Impact leaving, it kind of made sense there, and he did the whole Instagram thing, which was memeing and trolling, which would have fit into Cloud9. But it looks like Echo Fox might be the destination that he goes to, maybe just waiting on a contract signing, and then off he goes. But if he goes to this Echo Fox team, man, that roster is loaded with guys who, should I say, are tilt prone. You have Huni, you have Dardoch, and Optic and Adrian, I guess with Dignitas, were kind of hit or miss at times too. They came in as this amazing bot lane, dominating, and then kind of fell off near the end. But if Huni and Dardoch fall behind or start losing games, I think it could get ugly.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys who are either going to completely dominate some games and single-handedly win you a game with that topside pressure, or, Huni might play some interesting picks, Dardoch might camp it, they might get behind, and then they'll just be very angry with each other. But I am very interested to see how the communication is going to work on this team. Who is the shot caller on that Echo Fox lineup? Who is it? Dardoch? Huni?
Maybe. It's not Huni.
It's not Huni.
It's not Huni.
I mean, I don't know. The communication looks like it's going to be a big issue for that team because I think Altec and Adrian aren't the most outspoken bottom lane. Altec for sure. Maybe Adrian's going to be taking over the shot calling on that team. But I mean, he hasn't been the strongest voice on most of the teams that he's played on. So I don't know how that's going to work communication-wise.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be a Dardoch-Adrian combination in the shot calling role. But, I mean, going into the offseason, we looked at the Echo Fox team and we're like, they need to change a lot of things. And so far, I think they did. One thing maybe they didn't have to change, which was the mid lane with Froggen and Phoenix. But outside of that, you can say they have upgrades at probably every position. I mean, Huni's better than Looper. The bot lane is much improved. Altec and Adrian, obviously better than Mash/Keith and Gate. So
even if you use all three.
Even if you use all three, yeah. 3-man bot lane. Altec Adrian's still better than that. And then I like Dardoch. Obviously, he's a talented guy. We've seen it time and time again. It's just, can he stay composed and keep that attitude in check? We'll have to wait and see. But talent-wise, this roster could be a top 5 team. It's just, we all know their personalities, and we all know that Huni and Dardoch are tilt-prone. So if that gets to them, then this team might fall to the lower end of the bracket.
Yeah, and the last time Dardoch played with 2 Korean-speaking teammates, there was a lot of stuff lost in the communication there. You got to feel like last time he was on Liquid. And people keep saying maybe his issues will go away. He'll mature. I mean, he's almost been around for like 2 full seasons at this point now. And the fact that it's kind of the same issues every time. He's already played on like half the teams in the LCS, been back to teams that he was already on. So I hope Echo Fox has a backup plan, and whoever they eventually get in there as that academy jungler is maybe a little more prepared and doesn't get quite as screwed over as Omar did on CLG, because he just got thrown into the wolves. I hope that doesn't happen on Echo Fox. I hope Dardoch is able to start the whole season without issue, but I feel like that's unlikely.
He'll get replaced by Xsmithy again.
Yep.
Almost undoubtedly.
Xsmithy Fox?
Xsmithy Fox. Fox Xsmithy. Sounds good. But everyone's favorite word when it comes to League of Legends is potential. And it's there for this Echo Fox team. It really is. But as potential, it often doesn't get reached. And that's your inspirational words of the day. So take that home.
It's uninspiring.
Tell everyone what you learned today.
There's also the potential for disaster with this team.
Yes.
So there's upside and there's a lot of downside.
There's both, but it's still a better looking team than what they had in 2017 summer.
Yeah.
But then again, it wasn't hard to get better than that.
That team, there wasn't really any of the upside. It was just they were kind of hanging around in the muck of the, ditch.
The muck of the ditch.
Yeah. The bottom of the league. This team at least has a chance to be a playoff team.
Yeah. Well, they should be out of the muck of the ditch. Let's hope.
They should be out of the muck of the ditch.
That might be safe for another team, which we'll talk about pretty soon.
Yes.
And now we're going to talk about some booms and busts of the transfer window. Some of the signings that we think might put a team over the top, and some moves that we think might put a team into the muck of the ditch. As
the muck
that's
of
the
the
theme
ditch.
of the day. So
I'm going to say that a lot more today.
yeah, get used to it. Get used to it. So let's start with you, Eric.
Okay.
Who's your big boom signing that's going to put this team into that next level?
I mean, this one's pretty obvious. It was probably the biggest splash of the offseason, and for some reason, people are saying that Sven and Mithy are a downgrade from Doublelift and Biofrost, which doesn't really make much sense to me, just because Biofrost and Doublelift maybe one lane against them at Rift Rivals when G2 was looking terrible, the worst they did all season. It doesn't mean Doublelift and Biofrost are better than them. I think Sven and Mithy have been the best duo in the West for the majority of their time ever since they sprung onto the scene with Origin. I mean, back when he was Niels, I mean, for how great a season Reckless had, Sven still just had a fantastic season that no one really talked about. And I mean, at worst, these guys have been like the second best bot lane in EU the whole time they've been there. So there's no way it's not a big upgrade for TSM. And internationally, I mean, these guys have gotten to the semifinals. They've put on performances with two totally different rosters. They've performed well. Yeah, G2 hasn't gotten out of groups, but I mean, this Worlds, that bottom lane was still really solid for them. And bringing in a guy like Mithy is only going to help shot calling duties for Bjergsen. I think that's one of the main issues for TSM is they got to dial that back for Bjergsen so he can get back to that aggressive play style that he's most comfortable on, I feel like.
Yeah, when it comes to European bot lanes, it seems like it was Reckless who got all the credit because, oh, look at his KD, it's so high, and look at his damage output, it's so high. But it was Sven is just a guy who doesn't die, and his team fighting is superb, and you know what you're going to get every week. It's the consistency from this bot lane, and Mithy in team fights as well. So it's just, sure, Reckless has these ups, like the upside and whatnot, but when it comes to just playing the same way every single game, is it going to cost you a game? Absolutely not. Sven and Mithy will not cost you a game pretty much ever. You can say that they will not lose you a contest. So it's just super solid, and I think they're going to perform incredibly well with TSM and hopefully get some more of the attention they deserve because this split, they were just overlooked on G2, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, I think they've been so good for now multiple splits and years that it is just basically expected of them to perform at a high level. Right. And when they are, people are just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, and then if they have an off game or an off week or whatever, it's like, oh, what's wrong with Sven and Mithy? Oh, they're terrible, which is not at all the case, but their standards are just so high now.
Very high.
Very high.
Something that we got accustomed to seeing last split from a different team, Optic Gaming, was some poor jungle play. Obviously, they started with Dardoch, and then it moved over to Omar God.
Again, Omar God got pretty screwed over.
He got screwed over, for sure he did. Hey, we just got rid of our jungler out of nowhere. Get in there.
Yeah, we want to go to Worlds. We want to be the best team. Come on in. No pressure.
Yeah.
No pressure.
But obviously, going into franchising in 2018, you need an upgrade. Sure, maybe they thought Omar God was a guy with potential. They can still keep him on the team. Throw him down there. But now they brought in someone who fits this roster, someone who fits the playstyle that we saw from CLG last year, and that's Reignover. Someone who, when he first came into Fnatic and to Immortals, it was, man, this guy loves to fight. And it just seemed like he was looking for those team fights non-stop. Obviously, CLG was the bloodiest team in the league last year.
Yep.
And it makes sense that Reignover comes onto this team after his time on Immortals and Fnatic. So I really do think that, sure, his time on Team Liquid, not the best. That's fine. But he also played with different rosters and different members, and then he was subbed out at the end for Dardoch. A lot going on there, but when you look at the kind of stuff he does, most awards plays per minute. He gives the vision even when he's not being overly aggressive, and you see there top 4 in first blood percentage, GD at 10, and damage percentage. So he can still be a carry guy which Omar God was not in any capacity in his limited time at CLG. So I think Reignover is going to be a great move on this kind of revamped, brand new CLG roster with Biofrost at support. And then Reignover subbing in for Dardoch / Omar God, joining Huni, Stixay, and Darshan.
Yeah, and I mean, Reignover was by no means the issue on Team Liquid this past year. That was a whole bunch of different factors going into it. And despite being on a 9th place team for pretty much his whole stint, I think they finished 9th both splits, I believe. So despite having that, he still had, as you saw there, some of the better numbers for junglers in NA. And the whole Dardoch thing was a little absurd. I wouldn't be benching him for Dardoch. But they were just trying anything to try and get some wins. But yeah, him coming in, and obviously they're going to need a guy to help shot call now that Afromu is gone. And I think Reignover can definitely step up and do that. He's got plenty of experience, and he's learned from some of the best guys who have talked in Yellow Star. And, you know, people even said Yellow Star's shot calling was kind of overhyped in that fantastic Fnatic roster in 2015. And a lot of that was from Reignover as well. So, I mean, bringing him in is only going to help CLG, and vision control is something that they definitely didn't really emphasize last year, which is why a lot of these games they had a lot of deaths. That's why Afro was caught out a lot, and dying was just because no one else was really warding, or his warding wasn't the best way to do it. So I think now that having a guy who can be vision focused and a guy who also, that's why he likes all these skirmishes, is definitely going to help CLG, and this roster looks like a pretty big improvement from last year.
I mean, Reignover definitely understands the jungle. You've seen some of his videos where he talks about strategy and following the other jungler around. His game knowledge is far and beyond what I've seen from other players. So I'm looking forward to Reignover, and I think he's going to really help CLG get back to a top 3, top 4 spot this split. Let's get to some fun stuff. Let's get to let's bring out the flamethrower, if you will.
Some busties?
Let's talk some busts, Eric.
Okay.
Who are some guys that you think are going to fall flat? What signings were you like, man, this is awful, this team's going to suck?
Well, I mean, Echo Fox, their first signing, Phoenix, immediate reaction, I was like, that's not how you rebuild a team. That you replace your best player with a guy who wasn't even in the LCS last year. He was in the challenger scene, and it doesn't make sense. Sure, he was fantastic at times with Liquid, and he was pretty solid with Goldcoin United. But I mean, Froggen is a fantastic guy, and the only way I can give them a break is if Froggen was like, hey, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to play next year. Okay, then you kind of have to sign someone. But if it's anything other than that, this is a crazy signing. I mean, he was hyped up so much when he came to Liquid, and it took him a while to get rolling. But he did have a fantastic split when Liquid finished first in the regular season. And, you know, he's getting quadra kills 1v4 against CLG. I don't know if he's going to get back to that. I think he definitely... That was a very short window where he was at his peak play like that. And for the majority of his time in the LCS, he was underwhelming, I would say. And I feel like that's going to happen again. He's going to be underwhelming in this LCS split, especially with the top-tier talent that's in the mid lane now, with guys like Febevin and Power of Evil coming in. You already got Bjergsen, you already got Jensen, who he has stepped up to be a premier mid laner. I mean, that's already half the league that is, like, substantially better than Phoenix, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like Phoenix wasn't Echo Fox's first choice. They were probably in talks with some of these other guys from Europe, PoE, Febby, and then they were like, well, we're probably looking at these other teams. So they go to Optic and they go to Clutch, and all of a sudden you're kind of left looking at the import pool, and it's very limited. Obviously, probably the top guy available is someone like Phoenix, or you can maybe look at Ryu, but then he went to 100 Thieves. So then you have the conversation, is it even worth going import? And they, I guess, decided that it was, since already their bot lane was domestic, their jungler was domestic, so they didn't have to go the Keen route, where you know what you're going to get with a guy like Keen, which is stability, but also nothing spectacular. So maybe take the upside risk of Phoenix, and it's like, okay, there's not much else available. Phoenix is okay, and we saw that at times, like in the game against CLG, that Azir play, where he turned around a 4v1 tower dive. He's got the potential to be solid, but it's just, when you look at initial signings and these big splash pickups come free agency, Phoenix was not one of them. And it was just like, oh, this Echo Fox team getting rid of Frog and bringing in Phoenix, what's going on?
Yeah, again, it was pretty early on, and the first guy they signed to their roster was Phoenix. And yeah, initially it was like, oh, that is a bad taste that's how you're starting your roster. But now as we go through this whole offseason, you're kind of like, yeah, what else would they have gotten? Who else would they have gotten in that mid lane? It's pretty much Keen.
Yeah.
It's all that was left. I mean, with a guy like Fly going on, Fly, Quest, I'm never going to get tired of that. I hope he stays there for 10 years on that team. But yeah, there's not really much else out there that they could have gotten with maybe some of these challenger guys and saved an import slot, but that's probably even riskier than going with Phoenix, who at least has proven himself, even though it's for such a small window. But again, I don't think he reaches that peak that he did for a short time on Team Liquid. I think he'll be underwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, but at least he does have that LCS experience.
Right.
One thing, you know who else has a lot of LCS experience, Eric?
Who's that?
This bot lane of Optic Gaming. Arrow and Lemonation, specifically Lemonation's been around since the beginning of time, it seems like. And I don't know how this is possibly a starting bot lane in the LCS, but it is. It is, and it's going to cost Optic quite a bit, I think. Obviously, I heard they had other options in mind. Potentially, Sven and Mithy was in talks with Optic and TSM, and then once they went to TSM, Optic's like, oh, God.
We'll go with Plan Z.
Yeah.
Those are good numbers.
Yeah, these are some sick numbers. Lemonation, worst KDA of all NA LCS starters. Is that good? No, it's not good. Lowest first play percentage, most deaths per game, fewest wards per minute, everything you want in a starting support. And then Arrow. Obviously, we know his laning phase wasn't good. We don't need to go specifically into the stats, but that's where he struggled. And the dip from spring to summer for him was pretty drastic, like a 1.5 KDA difference from the two splits. Yeah. So, man, I mean, you take a bad laning AD carry with a bad laning support and someone who likes to die a lot, and you add them together.
Two negatives.
Make a positive. Or a bigger negative, which they don't teach you in math class, but it's what I've always believed.
Well, there's no belief in math. It's all fact.
I guess so. Show your work.
Show your work. The work is Optic's going to have a lot of work to do because that bottom lane is going to be behind probably every game. Every game for the entire split, that bottom lane might be behind. Listen, Lemonation, obviously he knows how to pick ban for the most part. He's a great strategic mind. He's been around for so many meta shifts and different changes. I think with all these new runes reforged, having a guy like Lemon working with your team is pretty great. Actually playing in the game, I mean, he's definitely been on a decline for a couple of splits now. I don't know. He's not as mechanically as bad as people put him out to be, I think. There's just some decisions that he makes in-game that are questionable when he's getting caught out like that, which kind of seems to be a theme with a lot of different supports, at least the last year, just kind of getting a little too balls to the wall for warding and dying for it. And Arrow, yeah, a guy who seems to need a lot of help in lane. And I don't know if Lemon is enough. In fact, I know he's not enough help for him in lane.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these other bot lanes, Sven and Mithy coming into the LCS, Double Lift and Olay, Sneaky and Smoothie.
The TSM Optic game is, look away.
Yeah, don't watch. Man.
I hope they don't show the bot lane, that whole broadcast.
It's just weird when you see that bot lane and you look across the rest of the roster too, and it's like you have a Katie in jungle, fine. Zig is one of the less sought after top laners available. It's like, so why is your entire team just second tier signings?
PoE is going to have to basically get MVP of the split for Optic to make some noise.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough for sure.
Yeah.
So those are some guys who might put their teams over the top or just sink them immediately.
The anchor, the three anchors are probably Phoenix, Lemon, and Arrow.
Yes.
Kind of three cool names if you put them all together though. Lemon, Arrow, Phoenix.
Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Guys, send in your questions. We'll get to them relatively shortly. And by relatively, I mean...
That's a pretty ambiguous time, Matt.
10, 15 minutes, maybe? We'll see. We'll see how much we want to talk, Eric.
I want to talk a lot.
Do you?
A lot.
Okay, well. Okay. We might not get to any questions. Just kidding. We will. Don't leave.
Good prank.
Pretty funny, XD.
XD, lol.
Let's talk about the face of Fnatic, because finally, after all this time, Reckless apparently is coming back. It's announced by Fnatic, and it's a 3-year deal.
3 years.
After he was just wouldn't even
fell
get up.
asleep. Yeah.
Yeah, he was at the end of the worlds.
He's still there.
He's still
sitting in the chair.
Yeah, he's still distraught over what happened.
Reckless, you need to eat.
That's why it took them so long to make the announcement.
Yeah.
Where's Reck? Oh, we left him in Korea.
China.
China. Whatever. Koreans won. That was confusing. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years is pretty unheard of in League of Legends to sign a guy that long. And now that he's been with Fnatic for so long, is he the guy who most represents this brand over a guy like Expeke?
That's a tough question. And I mean, Expeke's been around since the beginning of time when it comes to the league scene. He's a dinosaur. And I mean, when you look at what he's done, obviously, in his early years with Fnatic, Fnatic was the most dominant team in Europe. And my main issue with putting Reckless over Expeke as a face of Fnatic is that in Reckless's time, they just haven't been as successful as the Fnatic unit with Expeke. And I mean, part of that, sure, is you can say the competition level is different then than it was now, and that's perfectly fair when Expeke had to beat the likes of SK and Alliance, and now Reckless trying to deal with G2s and H2K and Unicorns of Love and Misfits. So obviously, there's a lot more European competition now on the higher tier, whereas when Expeke was around, it was pretty much just Fnatic dumpstering everybody. But I mean, for me, it's still Expeke. When I think Fnatic, that's the first guy that comes to mind, and I know he had some success with Origin, but he also had a lot of terrible times on Origin, like when he played support and AD carry. And it was hard to watch, and you're like,
Sivir kiting is top tier.
Or dreadful, depending on what you want to say. But yeah, it's for me, when I close my eyes and look at Fnatic, Expeke is still the one looking back at me. Which is a weird thing to say.
What an image.
Yeah.
Matt's picturing Expeke. Does he have what's Expeke wearing in those dreams?
Oh, you know, his uniform.
That's good. I'm glad he's wearing his uniform.
Yeah.
I feel like Reckless is quickly becoming the face of Fnatic, even though, sure, Expeke, they won Season 1 Worlds. Again, not even really a real world championship. They won a bunch of LCS splits. I mean, before G2 came on, it was just Fnatic winning basically every split except for the one that Alliance came in and took. But Reckless, I mean, you look at this past year, he's been with the team when they've struggled. Usually, historically, Fnatic is just a team that doesn't struggle. They're always either in the EU LCS finals or just in the semis. They're always a top 4 team at worst. And obviously you saw them kind of struggle after, all the different roster changes. After Expeke left, there was a bit of a slump. Then Huni, Reignover come. They have their crazy 18-0 season with Reckless on the squad. And then Huni, Reignover, Yellowstar all leave. And then there's the struggles. And Reckless is there through all of that, and now they have this whole kind of redemptive arc, this split, kind of 2 parts where they struggled in spring, came back towards the end. I think it's just, Reckless is so the guy. When Expeke was there were a couple of guys who you were like, this is kind of Fnatic, with Expeke being at the top of that totem pole. But now it's basically just Reckless. I know Soaz is there, another guy who really is the face of Fnatic, and he's been there with Expeke for so long. But now, you look at all these interviews and all these videos that Fnatic does, and it's all just Reckless. They don't even interview other guys on Fnatic. It's just like, even some of these, the Eyes on Worlds, even the Life of Legends, a lot of the time, it's just Reckless. They follow him around. He's the face now.
He's the face now. There's one problem with Reckless as the face, is that there's also somewhat of a negative light following that around. I mean, at Worlds, obviously, the whole drama thing, which I don't really have an issue with, is him being emotional. It's like, well, who cares? He's emotional, he lost. Some people think it's a ploy to get attention. I don't believe that. But there's still the part where he refused to get up on stage with his team and bow. The thing where he had to take a break from the team and then come back with this whole, hey, guys, I'm back thing. And it's just like, sure, Reckless might be the face, but I'm not sure that it's the most positive light right now, the way it was when Expeke was on the team. Obviously, everyone loved that man with the whole backdoor play and just all of his heroics with Fnatic, with Cyanide, with Soaz, with Yellowstar, of course. You mentioned there's a lot of guys on that team, and Reckless now is kind of taking the torch. And maybe in 3 years from now, when he's still playing for Fnatic, then you can undoubtedly say that he's the guy. But for right now, I'm going to stick with Expeke. But we can disagree. If
Reckless isn't right now, then by even 1 year into this contract, he's going to be. I mean, yeah, Expeke had pretty much no negatives associated with him on Fnatic. After he left Fnatic, it was a whole different story.
Right.
But on Fnatic, yeah, it was all rainbows and gummy bears and gumdrops. Is that what it is? Rainbows and gummy bears? That doesn't sound right.
That's not right.
They're both lovely things. So.
Sunshine and lollipops. Is that a song or something? I don't know. We're screwing it.
We butchered it. But right now it's reckless. I think it's reckless. It's reckless. Everyone recognizes his face. But honorable shout out to Soaz, by the way. This guy's been there pretty much as long as the two of them.
Yeah. So. I mean, he's been around basically the entire time period.
The baguette.
The baguette. The Frenchman.
Baguette.
There he is. Anyways, Expeke and Reckless, obviously. Both legendary European players. Doesn't really matter.
Who's more handsome? That is tough.
I don't know.
That's a toss-up.
You going to comment?
No, it's a toss-up. That's 50-50.
All right, we'll leave it for the fans at home.
That's right. Let us know who's more handsome, Expeke or Reckless.
Yeah. So there's all these guys now who are on LCS teams. They found their homes. But there are a few who were left out on the streets.
Oh.
Left finding cardboard boxes to chill under for a little while.
To game in, yeah.
Yeah, to game in. It's not the most comfortable environment, but no one wants them.
You got to do.
No one wants them.
How come you don't want me, man?
Because you're not good enough at League of Legends.
Oh.
Pretty
sad.
Pretty tough criteria, but that's how the world works. Especially now with franchising in North America, it's like the standard is even higher when it comes to the players you want on their rosters. So you look at some of the guys not on teams anymore, and it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, you got guys like Keen, we already talked about. Froggen is a guy who I'm pretty sure is going to get into streaming and wasn't actually actively looking for a team because he could easily get a team either here or in EU. A couple other guys. Santorin, who's actually an NA, a local guy, so he wouldn't even take up an import slot. He would take up one in EU, which is where he's originally from, so that gets very convoluted and confusing. Xpecial, I mean, that guy has an insane amount of experience, and he should probably be on an LCS roster. 100 Thieves still have that bottom lane. I'm pretty sure, I feel like Afram was going to go there, but if he doesn't, I mean, Xpecial has got to be the guy who's going to be going there. He should probably be on a roster. There's guys like Laud. Laud?
No.
No. Laud probably shouldn't be on a roster. Shrimp? Is he worth an import slot? Probably not. Probably not worth an import slot. But I think the main guys are guys like Keen, Santorin, and what was the other guy? Xpecial. Those are all three NA guys that no one decided to pick up. Even when Golden Guardians went for an all-NA team.
A lot of people were talking about Santorin as a guy who deservedly should have had a spot in the LCS, and it's kind of heartbreaking to not see him get one after he spent some time in the Challenger Series, really grinding back up to that top spot in Challenger. He was on top of that NA LCS ladder, so not NA LCS, just NA Challenger ladder. So he's been working hard to get his game back up to the top level. Obviously, once he left TSM, everyone just kind of threw him to the curb as another TSM ward. See you later. We don't want you. You're a terrible jungler. All those great compliments to get from the fans and from Reddit, the community. So, but after that, he's been grinding, and I thought he would maybe get a spot as a local guy, a domestic jungler, and those are so valuable now. So maybe even over someone like Dardoch, who is a high risk, high reward guy, you can get a more consistent guy in Santorin, and maybe put him in there. But obviously, Echo Fox going the other direction. I thought he deserved the spot.
Yeah, and obviously now he's kind of screwed to start because no EU team is going to use an import slot on him. So I think it's in his best bet to go on one of these, an academy team for someone who maybe has a question mark at that jungler spot, like Dardoch on Echo Fox, maybe Onda on FlyQuest. You're not 100% sure what you're going to get out of him, or Meteos on 100 Thieves. Some of these guys who are maybe somewhat questionable in that spot, if you have Santorin breathing down your neck, looking to get that starting spot, he might get a chance there, even if he doesn't start the season as a starting jungler.
Yeah, I think all three of those situations are pretty good. Because who knows? Meteos is kind of unproven right now. We don't know what to expect from him. Onda, obviously, a jungler who was crushing it in Korean solo queue. And then, what was the other one you said, Eric? Dardoch. Yeah, that could fall apart real quick.
Yeah, I mean, being a sub to Dardoch, you're almost expecting. You're like, wow, great, I'll start by week 5, maybe?
Yeah, once he calls someone an idiot, we're in, boys. Let's go.
No, that's probably week 1.
And you're just badgering him the whole time. Hey, Dardoch.
Yeah. You know, this guy told you.
He's so terrible.
He said this to you. What? Yeah, I feel like you could egg him on pretty easily. That sounds like a terrible team environment. Yeah. I hope Echo Fox isn't doing that because they're going to finish 10th. But I think Santorin might get a shot to actually get some meaningful games in this LCS split.
I hope so. I hope some of these guys without teams get a chance. At least get sent to the challenger rosters because they deserve it, and it's kind of hard to see them leave the scene. But
Special's crazy.
Special's
He's been great. He's a guy who's been grinding too. You see him on pretty much any stream.
Yeah.
Any big streamer. Special's always in the game.
I thought he might be done after the whole Phoenix 1 thing where he left and he was like,
very sad interview.
Oh, no, I might never play with these guys again. That's because Phoenix 1 is dead and
Gonzo.
Thing. But I thought it might be because Special's retiring too, as an added thing. Looks like he still wants to play because he's been crushing it.
Maybe he will if he can't get a team.
Yeah, that's a good way to retire. Wait, I don't have a job. I'll just retire.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah, it does feel bad. One last thing before we get to your questions, everybody. We got to talk about some rookies.
The rooks.
Because I know going into this, I thought there wouldn't be like any rookies starting because of all the imports from Europe, from Korea. But there hasn't really been any Korean movement to North America. There's been a few EU guys coming over. Obviously, Sven, Mithy, Febby, PoE. But there's still three starting rookies right now in the NA LCS. You got Licorice, top laner for Cloud9. You got Onda, jungling for FlyQuest, and you got Deftly playing AD carry for the Golden Guardians. And that's an interesting trio because we haven't really heard much of any of these guys. Obviously, Licorice from the Challenger Series, teammates with Deftly. And then Onda's just been on Mortal Sub for a while.
Yeah, Deftly looked like he just woke up there in that picture. Wasn't ready for the flash on the camera. But yeah, I think all three of these guys have a chance to make some noise. I think the guy who's going to stand out the most is going to be Onda on that FlyQuest squad because I think he's going to have the most opportunity to kind of carry and like really impact a lot of these games. I think Licorice is definitely going to be eased into that Cloud9 lineup. They got so much star power in other positions. They'll probably be like, yeah, you're kind of unproven. Just play tanks. Just chill out. Maybe eventually he gets to get his hands on some carries depending on how the meta shifts. But at least early on, he's probably not going to have a huge amount of opportunities to kind of showcase what he's capable of. And Deftly, I mean, Contracts is going to be the star of that team. However he's playing, whatever he does is going to really impact how the team goes. But that being said, High might not be a main carry on a squad, so they might have to look to Deftly there. But I think Onda and how he plays is really going to affect how FlyQuest looks this season. And I think he's a guy who's got a pretty decent amount of hype. I know solo queue, even if it is in Korea, it's totally different than pro play. But I think he surprised some people and puts up the best rookie performance.
He's obviously the biggest question mark, but I mean, anyone who can get that high in Korean solo queue has the individual talent. It's just now, can you translate that into getting the chemistry with your teammates and figuring out in-game how to adjust, what to play, what's best in the meta, what should I do in this situation, and can he figure that out with Flame in the top lane, with his bottom lane and Wild Turtle. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do, and I have high hopes for the guy. Obviously, the guy with most pressure is Licorice going on to a C9, who was the only NA team to get out of groups at Worlds, and now you replace Impact, the world champion, with a rookie in Licorice. Man, he's going to have a lot on his plate. They're going to want him to perform right away, especially the fans. It might take a while for him to, get comfortable in the environment with a new jungler as well, with Sven coming aboard. So, man, he's going to have a lot on his plate right away, and fans are going to be being like, man, why is Licorice underperforming? I mean, give him some time. Let him settle in there as someone who's brand new to this team. But I think he'll be pretty good overall. But if we're looking at someone who's going to be Rookie of the Year, I kind of agree with you with Onda. He's going to have basically the whole map to do whatever he wants. I think he's going to be the star of this new FlyQuest team. And I think he's going to perform pretty well.
And again, Licorice could surprise, and maybe with such a great infrastructure in Cloud9. In terms of the actual in-game stuff, there's not going to be a lot of pressure on him because guys like Jensen are going to alleviate a lot of that pressure for him. It's just more so that he's part of such a historic brand in NA and a team that's always at the top. There's going to be pressure on him mentally. But actually within these games, I don't think there's going to be much pressure on him at all because Jensen takes so much of it. And I think we'll see how the dynamic kind of works with Sven. I'm sure he'll be spending a lot of time hanging out with his Danish buddy.
It'll definitely be a mid-focused team on Cloud9. But yeah, I just meant it in the fact that if he doesn't perform, man, these fans are going to be ripping him apart.
Yeah, luckily he hasn't set his own standard yet. So, if he has a bad first week, set the bar low,
then you're good.
then week 2 and onward, you
That's
just
the
play
key.
decently and you're good to go.
Always put the bar as low as you can, so you can
That's
just step
how
over it.
That's how I go through life, man.
Absolutely.
Put that bar
Some
just
more,
above your ankles.
Some more inspirational stuff.
That's right.
What a go get 'em stream this is, huh?
Yeah, mucks
Good
and
stuff.
ditches and low standards.
Potential, yeah.
You're not going to achieve your potential.
No. Excellent.
Great advice. Let's get to some questions.
One more thing.
One more thing.
You see in the bottom right corner of your screen. Do you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
That says DX Racer, right?
Oh, wait a sec.
Shoutouts to
That says DX
it
Racer.
does.
Oh.
So shoutouts to DX Racer for these lovely chairs. They're quite comfortable.
I agree.
The lumbar support. As I know, I always go on it with the lumbar support, man, but
yeah.
my lumbar.
Your
it's
lumbar?
good. Yeah, it's that's.
Use
it's
the
quick
code.
up. Use the code. Shot callers, 50% off. DXRacer.com. That's the info. Go give her. Go get her.
It's free 15%. You don't even have to do anything.
Free 15%. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free 15% off. It's not so bad.
It's not bad at all. All right, let's shut up. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's get to some questions.
Let's let the fans talk.
I turned the volume so no one do anything.
Okay.
Mav Millar says, what do you think about Team Liquid's Impact welcome video with your voices in the intro? Someone noticed. Yeah,
You
that
know-
was us. There must not be any other media. They're just like, hey, look
I
at
don't
this.
think anyone else made a video about Impact.
Well, ours was also amazing. So.
That's true. But yeah, I opened that video and I thought I had another YouTube tab open. I was very confused at first, but it's pretty cool. And we're best pals with Liquid,
I wish I was paid by Steve.
as do I. I think everyone in the world wishes they were paid by Steve. I love that now the S in Steve is just a $.
Yeah.
That's great.
It puts the meme full circle. It's fantastic.
It's great.
Oh yeah, Matt Katsopoulos also knows. Calling us, saying that we're in Hollywood. Famous.
Hollywood North.
It's also cool. By the way, thanks for the 20K subs as of
That is-
yesterday, last night.
the last week or two with this whole off-season stuff, you've gotten a lot more subs, and we really appreciate it. You guys coming in to check all this stuff out and chatting about rumors, the rumblings and the what's going on. Maybe some not as legit as others, but I mean, for the most part, all these rumors have been true.
Yeah, we haven't said anything that's untrue, ever.
Never. I mean, nothing's guaranteed. We never guarantee things.
No, that's the secret in life too.
Never guarantee anything.
That's right.
You can't break a promise if you never make one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you have that clause in there.
Yeah.
I promise I'll try.
Yeah. Promise I'll do my best to complete this task.
Yeah, there it is. First time Ergot saying Supermassive signed GBM. Yeah, I think that happened last night or yesterday, and it's the most underwhelming news I've read in a while. I mean, that tells you how GBM's market is in North America. Yes, he was on the Challenger Series. And then, I don't know if you saw the video.
Oh, they announced him with a video?
Kind of. It was one of the Supermassive guys, I guess, sitting in Turkey on his phone, and he was like, hey, bro, join Supermassive. And then there's a pause, and then there's the other side. GBM picks up.
And he's like, I don't speak English.
All right, bro, I joined Supermassive. And that was it. It's like, what is it?
That's pretty hype. Was there like dramatic music going on?
No, they just fade into a cartoon version of themselves after.
Ooh, that's clean.
And they did the superhero thing with the speech bubble that said, I joined Supermassive.
Ooh, I mean, remember the
I'm done.
PSG hype video where they were like turning into cartoon of their
Is that
champions?
the thing now? Just morphing into comic
cool.
book people?
Yeah, it's cool. Comic books are in right now. But GBM, his slow demotion through the different regions was very sad. He was second best mid laner in Korea.
Yeah.
And then he came to NA and we killed him.
He went from ganked by mom to ganked by random Turkish jungler.
Yeah.
It's not as catchy, but what are you going to do?
He died in NA. We killed him. We stole his powers. We space jammed him.
We space jammed him.
I don't know who
And
got
not in a good
them.
way.
Yeah, no. I don't know who got his powers, but they're doing well with it.
I guess so. Some C9 questions, of course, Eric.
Sure.
Can you tell me why C9 let contracts go? I mean, we don't really know yet. Contracts apparently is going to make a statement at some point. We don't know if he wanted to leave and he requested to C9 that they let him move on, or if Cloud9 was like, hey, we have an import slot. Let's use it. which seems like an awful
Ridiculous.
decision to me to let someone of Contract's caliber go on.
If that's the case and they're like, we got an extra import slot, that is just poor management by them to be like, we have to use these import slots. We got them available, so we're not moving any of these other guys. Impact's already gone. Okay, well, contracts, we'll get rid of you. That seems ridiculous. I assume there was some talks going on where, yeah, maybe Contracts wanted to move somewhere else. I don't know why he would want to go somewhere else. I mean, Cloud9 coming off a pretty fantastic Worlds performance and season in general, aside from a little bit of a slide when they lost to Dig in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. But it's kind of a gray area and a weird situation that they would let go of arguably the top jungler in NA. And the fact that he was domestic was just even better, even more so added to why you would want him on your team. So it's a little suspect, and I want to hear more about why it went down.
Yeah, it's
mysterious.
I'm waiting for the official statement from Cloud9 and all that stuff, because it's totally interesting. And they replaced him with Svenskeren, who, getting to some other questions in here about what we think of Svenskeren signing, and if they attempted to land Jankos. The only thing we really know about what Cloud9 was trying to do was apparently they made an offer to Trashy to join their academy team, to which he said no, which is pretty understanding. And then Svenskeren was the guy, and I don't think Svenskeren had too much of a say in it, because apparently Reginald just had a transfer in place, which was to Cloud9, and I know me and you both think that's a pretty good move. I think he's going to fill in nice and get back to his aggressive ways with Jensen in the mid lane. So.
Yeah, and the whole timeline here is kind of fuzzy because there was basically no rumors or lead up to Contracts leaving C9, and then all of a sudden it was Golden Guardians, here's our potential whole roster with all these guys, and it was like, Contracts? What?
Yeah, what do you...
He's going to contract? I thought it just said signed to a contract. I was
with
like,
a Z,
right? Signed to a contract. Why does that have a Z? Oh my, he's gone from C9.
I know, there was no like whispers at all.
Yeah, and then it's like, so when did they offer Trashy the sub role? When, did they have Svenskeren in mind all along? Did they want him over Contracts maybe? I don't know why you would, but the whole timeline's a little bit fuzzy. And Jankos, I haven't heard of any like official them offering him anything like they did with Trashy, so I'm not so sure. But Jankos is running out of teams.
He is. The guy might not have too many places left to go. Dan Anderson says, do you think C9 should have tried to get Rush instead of Sven? Rush, man, obviously he's a solo queue star again, like he was before. He's back at it with like a 78% win rate in Challenger, something crazy like that.
That's easy.
But, I mean, even in his first time on Cloud9, it started off good, but then he kind of fell off. And I don't even think he really wants to play competitive again. He's just living life as like a solo queue star.
Yeah, I think for this upcoming split, I'd rather have Sven than Rush, just because, I mean, he's played more recently, and, I mean, Sven's played on the world stage. Not this Worlds, but the Worlds before, he played great. I think he just kind of needed a new scenery, and I think I'm less concerned. There's less risk in signing Svenskeren than with Rush. Sure, maybe Rush could pop off and be the best jungler of the split. I mean, Svenskeren really could do that as well, but I think there's less downside to signing Svenskeren. You more know what you're going to get with Sven as opposed to Rush.
Yeah, exactly. It's just more of a solid thing.
Yeah.
Which teams like. Teams want to know what they're going to get. Some TSM questions. Who's the bot lane of TSM? Sven and Mithy. Brand new Sven and Mithy from G2. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. What do you guys think about Mike Young moving to TSM? Will he become another ward or an aggressive jungler that Sven meant to be?
You know, what's interesting is Bjergsen and Mike are both, I call him Mike, we're really close, so I just call him by his first name. Bjergsen's already fully embracing these ward memes. They're kind of duo queuing together, and he's like, haha, here comes my ward. It's a slippery slope. It's very funny at the start because you're like, haha, you're recognizing what people think some of the issues are. But if that comes true again and Mike starts playing a different playstyle, it's like, this is actually an issue. Maybe you shouldn't joke about it as much. But I think, at least not for a while, that's not going to happen. And TSM, I think as an organization, knows they need to change something about what they're doing, because the last couple of years it hasn't worked when they've kind of made these junglers into something like that. And I think Mike Young is he's just much better when he's going to be aggressive, like playing these more aggressive junglers and less tank-heavy engage guys, where he can kind of dominate the early game and out-pressure the opposing jungler. So I don't think they're going to force him into it. I think they break the cycle with Mike Young here.
I do too. And keep in mind, Bjergsen said on stream the other day, I don't know how true it actually is, but apparently when it came to Svenskeren like jungle pool and what champs to play, it was pretty much up to him. If he wanted to play Kha'Zix in Italy, the choice was his. But at the time, Svenskeren felt that champions like Sejuani, like the Draven, were just better off, and that's what he ended up picking. Obviously played it more passively than people would expect, but apparently had a lot of say in what he did and what kind of champs he played according to Bjergsen. So how much of it is a TSM playstyle, how much of it was just Svenskeren liking that more in the meta, I don't know. But there's more to it than just TSM turning people into wards.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily TSM just being, you're right, being like, play passive, don't do anything, let Bjergsen win. I think some of these guys just don't want to make these huge mistakes that are they don't want to take a big risk that could potentially get them some huge gains, but maybe it'll lose you the game, because just playing on that TSM roster, if you do that, you are going to get destroyed by probably teammates, organization, fans. I mean, even Reggie, he's probably the best owner in NA, and obviously he does a great job recruiting guys. But I mean, when you make a mistake, you're going to get reamed out by him and a lot of other guys on that team. So maybe some of these junglers are just worried about making that mistake and kind of feeling the aftermath of it. But I think Mike Young's a guy who won't be worried about that, because he's just so new to the scene. He doesn't care.
No, he's a go-getter.
He's a go-getter. YOLO.
YOLO, exactly.
People
Hopefully
still say
he plays
YOLO,
like,
right?
I think so.
Okay.
Hopefully he plays like contracts. Just loose, able to make mistakes.
Loosey-goosey, man.
Go get him again.
Yeah, loosey-goosey.
All right, let's pick it up here, because it's a lot of questions, as per usual.
I love questions.
Tyler Longhofer says, do you think if TSM falls short again with our Worlds or not making finals, Venomity will stick around, or do you think that's it's purely them testing out a short term to fix their postseason? Apparently, I think it's a 1-year deal. I don't think that's been announced yet. But
yeah, I think it is 1 year, so I would be probably more surprised if they stayed after this year, unless TSM goes super deep at Worlds, super deep being like semis.
Right.
But I feel like they'll kind of hop around after TSM. I mean, this is their first time playing in NA. Maybe they don't like playing in NA. They want to go back to EU when there's franchising that's going on there. Exactly. So I feel like some of these guys in EU right now or in NA from EU, might head back there once franchising starts. But they'll be here for a year.
Yeah, I feel like they have an eye on ELCS franchising. I think that's a logical
Gotta follow the money.
Gotta follow the money. Plus, living at home is nice, too.
Yeah, in like at least, a country that you're familiar with.
Germany, yeah.
A continent.
All right, here's some more questions, Eric. Yakoto says, could Aframo go to EU? I don't see why he would.
At that point, I think he would just stream.
Yeah, streaming money or NA LCS. Those are the two options I see.
Yeah, I mean, he could honestly make a similar amount probably streaming to what you would in EU before franchising kicks in, because he's a pretty popular streamer, and especially during the LCS season, a lot of these pros aren't streaming nearly as much because there's so much focus on scrims and practice that, I mean, a guy like Aframo is probably going to get even more viewers. So I think it's either 100 Thieves or he's streaming, unless he's booting someone off a team, which is harsh.
It is harsh. It is definitely harsh. What about G2 Levi? Is that a possibility? I guess it is, especially if Yanko's going to G2 is not a thing.
That sounds like it brings a lot of issues. Anytime you're just bringing in one guy who speaks a totally different language, that is just a big issue, especially when it's coming from that jungler position where communication is so important, and it just sounds like it'd be a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it could be messy, but I mean, I think Levi could have the potential of a guy like Trick. I think they have similar play styles in that respect. But yeah, it'll be tough to get going. It'll probably take a while to get that roster on the same page. Question from Twitter at JR. What does a pro have to do to wash the stench of failure off like Xmithy did? It's a good question, because it seems like once you have that stamp of disapproval, so to speak, it's hard to get rid of it. And even for Xmithy, it took him a while from those Vulcan days.
Well, I mean, he was the consensus second best jungler back on those Vulcan days behind Meteos. when he was destroying everyone. That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
And then he came to CLG and was pretty great for a while. Then he had the whole Sejuani debacle.
The debacle, yeah.
Where it was like, I thought at that point, I was like, all right, Smithy's dead. He's killed by pig. Much like Robert Baratheon, season 1.
Spoilers. Come on, man.
But then he rebounded from that. And again, he became pretty solid on CLG, eventually goes to Immortals, and was definitely one of the best junglers in NA. So how do you wash off the stench of failure, which is terrific imagery.
Yes.
Well done. Very good imagery. I don't really know. You can't let these losses affect you. I mean, these guys you got to be tilt-proof, and you got to go into these next games and just completely forget about other ones. You watch the VOD after, you kind of learn what went wrong. You're like, great, I won't do that again, and then don't do it again.
It also involves the team being willing to give you a second chance. Otherwise, you're never going to get the chance to prove to people that you fixed what's wrong. And I mean, it takes Smithy having to play another pro game on Sejuani and actually hitting an ultimate. It takes someone like that. And I mean, if Dardoch goes on Echo Fox, for example, and just puts away all the stuff from his past and performs, then people are going to be like, oh, okay, Dardoch's cool. And then in future, teams will appreciate him and try to put him on there. But until he proves for an extended period of time that, you can actually do something and not treat your teammates like crap, then it's going to keep following you around. But, I mean, no matter what, it's going to exist as a meme for the considerable future.
And another thing is attitude, totally, talking about Dardoch. Smithy's a guy who teammates are not going to flame Smithy and be like, man, you suck. You missed that Sejuani. You're terrible. He's such a nice guy and willing to adapt for his teammates that's why these teams are willing to give him a chance. Even if you have a split where you struggle. A guy like Dardoch, if he has a split where he struggles, you're like, okay, then what is the upside of bringing you? You're not going to be great for the team morale or atmosphere, and you're not playing that well. Whereas Smithy, he brings that team morale up. He's a very nice man.
He's very nice. Still about 100 questions here, Eric, so let's...
100? You counted that quick?
That's a lot, man.
That's impressive.
Froggen questions.
Okay.
Where's Froggen going to go? What about Froggen? Do you think Froggen's going to take a split off for streaming? I mean, we saw him at the offline GG TV, offline TV GG.
Offline TV GG, Riri.
Just chilling for Thanksgiving with the guys. So it seems like he's enjoying the life of a, off-season dude.
Off-season dude.
And I don't know, because right now there's not really any options left in North America. So do you want to go back to Europe? Seems like he's enjoying time.
He seems like he's enjoying the American dream right now. Yep. So I would not be surprised at all if he decided to go the streaming route for at least a split, and then when some of these mid laners maybe struggle, teams will be like, Froggen, please come help us.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that would make a lot of sense, again, as to why Echo Fox went for Phoenix. If Froggen kind of knew from the get-go, he's like, nah, I'm a stream. I don't want to play this split. It's kind of a weird time to do it right when the NA LCS is franchising, but I don't think he's not getting a spot in NA, and he doesn't seem like he's ready to go back to EU just yet.
No, doesn't seem like it. 100 Thieves questions, of course, because they got a vacancy left in that bot lane. What are your predictions? Do you think there's a chance of them picking up Afro and Cutie Pie? And at He's No Truth on Twitter says, hi, my question is, why is 100 Thieves not releasing any info on their roster and everyone else in the league has? They have 3 guys locked up, which is Someday, Meteos, and Ryu.
They did that really early, by the way.
Yeah, that was like one of the earlier moves. And now we're waiting on the bot lane. And as for Cutie Pie, I don't think so, especially after on stream, which could totally be a meme and whatnot. But he said, apparently Steve and Liquid offered to pay me or match what I make streaming and even surpass it. And he was like, nah.
Yeah.
So
I watched that clip, and usually anything Cutie says, I assume he's trolling and lying about it. But he either is getting unbelievably good at trolling, or he seemed pretty genuine about that. So that's crazy if Liquid did that. Obviously, I mean, Cutie Pie could still be like a top 6. I guess that would more make him bottom 5.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he has the talent to still play in the LCS and be in that mid to low tier of guys. But I'm pretty sure they're going for Afromu and Cody Sun, because Liquid, Steve said, we got Cody Sun a starting spot on a roster. There's only one roster left that doesn't have an AD carry, so
it only makes sense.
It makes a bit of sense.
Yeah, a bit of sense. Not too much, though. All right, what's next here? A couple of people wondering why Echo Fox signed Dardoch. I mean, look at what else is available. You can take an import like you can't take an import because you already got Phoenix, and you got Huni if he comes over. So you got to take a domestic guy, and Dardoch's one of the higher upside guys available.
Yeah, and like we said, I think you go for a guy like Dardoch in the starting spot, and then maybe bring in Santorin as the sub. And if Dardoch gets out of control, you go, all right, Santorin, you're in. You got to have a backup plan with Dardoch, as very clearly highlighted by CLG last split.
Absolutely. A lot of questions about the NA standings. Obviously, what's it going to look like? What are the leaderboard going to be? We're going to do a full power rankings.
10-1.
Once all the rosters are out, and give you a full breakdown of what we think is going to be the end result. 10-1. So we won't get into that right now. We got to wait till the full rosters come out anyways. But stay tuned.
Come on, 100 Thieves. Give us that bot lane, and Huni, come on. Sign the contract, man.
Yeah.
Come to EchoFox so we can do these full power rankings. We'll do them for NA and EU. EU's
Absolutely.
far away from having all their rosters filled out, though.
Yeah, they are. But we can hit a couple questions quick. 3 best teams in North America. TSM.
TSM.
CLG.
Yeah. And then it gets touchy.
You got TL or C9? I got TL. I think you got C9.
I think I'd put C9.
There you go.
I think Liquid might not be as hype as people are hoping for. I think they'll still be a top team, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll push for that LCS title in the first split.
And then which new team entering the split is going to do the best? 100, Clutch, Optic, or GG's?
I mean, GG's, just type that right at the start of the game if I'm
so
the other person. I think probably Clutch.
I agree.
That roster looks pretty solid.
Maybe 100, depending on that battle. If it's Cody Sun and Afro, I might take.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, Clutch, Febevin is a guy who was probably the best performing mid laner in summer in EU. And I mean, Paulo and Hakuo, pretty solid in lane. You don't really have to worry about them down there. And Lyra is fantastic.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
2 possibilities, I think, for at least for the start. Clutch might be amazing right away, just because they got that NV core. Or maybe GG's is amazing right away because you got Haika on the shots while all the other teams are trying to figure stuff out. But then they'll do the flag quest thing and dive into the abyss again.
Yeah, so they start 5-0 and then finish 5-13.
Yeah. Some more TSM questions, Eric.
Okay.
If TSM won't win spring, will Sven and Mithy get kicked out like Yellowstar did? I feel like this is at least a 1-year commitment, especially because there's so many other things going on. It's not just those guys. It's also Mike Young, a brand new team kind of feel so.
Yeah, no, I think spring is definitely them figuring stuff out. This is definitely a year-long process for them, even if they don't win in spring. Unless it's a complete train wreck, they don't even make playoffs, then maybe something happens, but I cannot imagine living in a world where this roster doesn't make playoffs in the NA LCS in spring. So they're not going to panic after spring if they don't win.
No, I mean, yeah, give it time. Again, TSM sometimes starts slow. Even with Yellowstar initially, it took them a while to get going.
Lowest seed ever.
I know.
Playoffs.
Craziness. Tyler wants to know, are bad postseason play from TSM and Bjergsen correlated?
I will say internationally, I think Bjergsen plays a little more passively than he does domestically. I mean, this guy, 4-time MVP, obviously he dominates NA pretty much every single split. And then internationally, you kind of almost forget about him in games. He kind of falls back and you're like, oh man, Bjergsen's in this game. He's not feeding anything like that. He's not necessarily the sole reason TSM's losing any of these games, but you're kind of, to be an all-time great, he is already an all-time great, but to be like an absolute legend, you've got to kind of stand out on that biggest stage. And I think he kind of shrinks back a bit on these big stages.
Yeah, everyone recognizes him as like the best player in North America, but then, like you said, once he gets that stage, it's not really the Bjergsen that we've come to know, whether that's part of TSM just not performing to the level we expected them as a whole, or if it's Bjergsen playing differently and more passively when he knows his opposition is of a higher magnitude. Not sure, but I mean, he definitely plays at a different level than he does in North America.
And I will say this last Worlds and a lot of the international composition, this whole last year really, I think mid lane had like the least effect it's had in a while in the game in general, just because there was so much bot lane focus. And it wasn't just TSM, even Faker, some of these games, it's like I can't do that much more just because of how the meta is. You're not 1v9ing really from any position, but specifically mid lane these days. You're not busting out assassins.
All right, Eric. Let's get to some shorter form answers, my friend.
All right.
Still a lot of questions.
I'll settle down.
No, you got great answers, man.
Yeah.
Do you think scattering TSM members to the wind to rival teams could have been partially a scheme to diversify fan bases in the LCS, so it wouldn't just all be TSM fans? Seems a bit far-fetched. I just think TSM's trying to get the best roster out there that's available, and then the roles kind of just fit where Doublelift would go to Team Liquid, Battlefrost would go to CLG and whatnot.
Yeah, they're just trying to make sure that players only have nice things to say about them, so future players want to come play for TSM. And I will say there's going to be matches of the week every week now. These hype-up videos are going to be pretty great. It's just going to be, I want my vengeance against TSM.
Yeah. Every
player. Team has someone that'll say that.
It's pretty sweet. Thoughts on Crepo coaching Schalke and his return to the scene? What will he achieve? I wish the man the best, but when he took over for Splice, kind of behind the scenes as Boris, really turned things around. Splice looks like a top-tier team, so maybe with this Schalke roster, he can do some good coaching.
That Schalke roster looks pretty good. Like, it could definitely be a top team in Europe. The top area is much more clouded going into EU than NA for the next split.
Yeah. It's, again, hopefully Crepo gets back to a point where he's comfortable in the league scene, but wish him the best. C9, once again, how will Licorice match up against other top-tier Western top laners? That's tough to say. That's a lot of tops.
Top-tier top laners?
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be exposed by anyone. I think he's going to hold his own, maybe even come out ahead in some of these games. And I think he'll do all right against even some of the top guys like Someday, Hanser, Flame, those guys. I think he'll be all right.
I agree, Eric. Let me read some of these questions here. Do you think Riot will ever make LCS for series? Is it possible? I mean, maybe potentially, but that's definitely a ways down the road. They've seemed pretty hesitant to expand further, and even these minor regions, like you see Turkey and Brazil and whatnot, they're slowly starting to creep up. Obviously, I don't know what league is like in Syria. I don't know what the fan base is. But
yeah, I mean, even the fact that they tried to expand EU by 2.5 times the reaction they got on that, it's going to be a little while before they're expanding to other leagues, LCS-wise, I think.
Yeah. Why do you think so many EU players are coming to NA this year?
That's Skrilla, all that money.
The Skrilla is the main reason, guys.
Yeah, and they, gotta live hamburgers.
Yeah, people love the food,
American food. I don't know why.
It's terrible for you, but
it's very bad for you.
Man,
maybe
In and
don't
Out.
know.
Give me that In and Out. Give me that Jack in the Box. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
I've never had Jack in the Box.
Give me it though.
Yeah.
Matt wants to try it.
I do want to try it.
If you want to send us some.
Can I
Jack
go
in
to
the
NA?
Box.
Should I go to NA?
I'm gonna get you a Jack in the Box. Like
I
the toy,
don't. Don't you dare.
I'm doing it.
Huni. Where will Huni go? What team is Huni on? Is Huni to Echo Fox confirmed? How good could Echo Fox be with Huni? Huni. Not officially confirmed. He hasn't signed yet, but apparently it's pretty close.
He's
just waiting on. He's been doing the pen to paper business for about 3 days.
Practicing his signature.
Yeah, can't screw this up, guys.
You got to get a really nice cursive.
I think it could be pretty good, or it could be.
Disaster.
Yeah, as Eric said from Boston.
Yeah, it's pretty up in the air what that team's going to be. I think at best they're like 5th. Well, I don't even know if they're that good at best. At best they're 6th. They're the last playoff seed. At worst, they're probably 9th.
Who's 10th?
Oh, that's tough. It's either Optic or the GGs. The GGs.
I really hope they're 10th.
The Ottawa GGs.
Nice.
Shout out.
No one knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's too bad.
NALCS draft / scouting questions. Do you know how the NALCS draft will work when scouting grounds ends, like the order and format? All we know is that each team gets to pick one player. They can then choose to sign if they so elect to, but I don't know the format or the order yet.
The only thing that Riot has released is like an article that's almost a month old now, kind of talking about what's going on. I know the 3rd place and grand finals are December 2nd, and that's going to be streamed from Riot. And then, yeah, so 10 guys are getting drafted, not necessarily signed, but they're going to get drafted. That's half of the guys in the competition. That's not bad. I think a good chunk of these guys are going to go on the academy rosters for these teams just because there's not that many options.
Yeah.
They're going to need these guys.
And hopefully this helps out some of the NA talent pools, especially the mid lane when you have domestic guys. Yeah. There's only like one. I think it's Pro Belter.
High.
And High, sorry. Not High.
There's 2.
There's 2.
That's it.
That's it.
It's crazy.
Hopefully this helps bring some more guys to the the attention of these other teams and get on those academy rosters. Because otherwise, it's tough sledding if those EU guys start going back to EU next year.
Yeah, there's going to be a significant drop-off if that's the case.
Yeah. Brandon wants to know, what do you think about the new G2 lineup? Are they better or worse? Well, worse, but I don't think it's as bad as originally expected. Obviously, it depends on who their jungler is. If they do manage to get Jankos, then all right, we're on to something. If it's not Jankos, then
Levi,
that would be something that takes time to get working. But obviously, with Hjarnan and Wadded and Wonder taking over for Sven, Mithy, and Expect, you're going to find a little bit of a step back, at least initially, but we'll see.
I think Wonder is pretty comparable to Expect.
I agree.
I think when Trick's actually playing well, Expect was, I don't want to say the weakest on the team because he wasn't weak, but he was the weakest on that team because that team was insane. So I think Wonder's pretty comparable, and yeah, again, Hjarnan and Wadded are a downgrade. Not as big as people are saying, but again, anyone they're getting from EU is a downgrade to Sven and Mithy. So yeah, I think G2 is definitely going to be worse this split, but I mean, they've been the kings for 2 full years.
Yeah.
It's gonna be harder. I think they could still get to the finals and maybe win the split, but it's not going to be as clear cut. G2's a favorite, for sure.
There's a lot of teams that look like they're on a similar level now, at least, even though we haven't really seen them all play.
Haven't seen half the teams.
Yeah. What do you think about Bengi being a coach for SKT now, and what do you think about SKT's choice to re-sign almost all their players? Apparently, Bengi just got a phone call from Kummel, and Kummel was like, "You want to come coach?" Okay.
Come over. Bye.
Yeah.
I think Bengi's a good guy to have. I mean, I love any time a team brings in a jungler as a coach because they're kind of looking at the whole map when they play, so they kind of bring that interesting outlook. And it sounds like that's kind of, instead of maybe getting a sub jungler, they're just going to get Bengi to train Blank. And I'm just kind of picturing these montage videos from Kung Fu movies of him training Blank to reach his full potential. But I'm surprised they didn't make some roster changes. Like, sure, Peanut and Huni are gone, but I mean, Blank and Antara, I assume they're going to bring in another top laner. It sounds like Marin's maybe coming back, this is just a reunion of old SKT guys. Bengi's coming back to coach. Pumandu's on the coaching staff now as well. Maybe Marin's coming back. Just bring back everyone. Piglet, come on. Sub AD.
Yeah, I mean, they're still trying some new things. Obviously, Effort got some playing time in the Kespa Cup over Wolf.
The old support Zerath.
Yeah, there he goes. Trying some new things, and I know he's got a bit of hype surrounding him, so maybe he's someone who takes over for Wolf at a certain time. So they're not just settling with the same roster, at least they're going to try some new things, and we don't know if Untara and Blank is the final top jungle duo. I would be surprised if it was, though.
Pretty much anytime they bring someone up from nowhere, from solo queue, they end up being pretty good.
Yeah, they seem to know what they're doing.
No.
All right. A couple more questions, Eric.
Keep flying, my man.
Let's see. Got a legit question. When will girl players be able to play in LCS teams? And don't say that chick from Renegades, which is Remelia.
There's no rule saying that girls can't play in the LCS.
Right.
That's not a
Quite
rule.
honestly, a lot of it is just look at the top players. And that's not a gender thing. It's completely irrelevant. You can play with any tag and go completely, unnotified as to who's number one in the challenger ladder. And if you're good enough, you'll get on a team. It's that simple. I don't think there's anything saying otherwise. I mean, we've seen teams try to do these gimmicky all-girl teams. Sirens. And, I mean, it's just not competitive. And that's why.
Airbus, is that the
Airbus.
challenger team in EU?
Sirens number 2.
Sirens number 2. They've signed a female top laner, I believe. But see, like, the issue is that player is in Diamond 5. That is not really at a professional level.
Yeah.
So you're kind of setting it up for failure. But there's no rules against having females on any of these LCS squads. It just so happens that the people at the top of solo queue are males. Because there's a much higher percentage of males playing this game than females.
I'm with you. All right, we'll take 2 more questions here, Eric.
All right.
Would you favor the potential Sven and Jensen synergy over Mike Young and Bjergsen?
That's an interesting one. I feel like Sven and Jensen initially will get their synergy locked down quicker than Mike Young and Bjergsen. So maybe early on in the split, I just feel like they're going to click immediately because they have similar play styles, Sven and Jensen, that is. So I think I might favor them at least early on because they'll just kind of sync quicker. I don't know, maybe Mike Young and Bjergsen will eventually be better in the long run, but there are still question marks around Mike Young. Is he actually that amazing? We don't have a huge sample size for him.
No, we don't. But obviously the hype is real.
The hype is real.
And we'll see if he can live up to it. But I hope he does. Again, as Eric and I keep voting for him, very nice young man.
Very nice.
Which is the most important thing.
That's, yeah. Attitude is everything.
And of course, you gotta end with this question. For TSM, will they get out of group stage with the new roster? Or will it be like last time?
That is about 10 months away.
So predict right now.
So it's pretty hard to say before seeing a single game from this group. But they got a good chance. Sounds like every other year saying they got a good chance. But they got a pretty good chance. I mean, 4 of these guys are pretty proven internationally. I would almost say Bjergsen is the least proven internationally of those 4.
Wow.
How's that?
You're going to get flamed for that one.
Yeah, well, I guess, Hanser played well both worlds.
He was good, yeah. He's been good.
Both worlds. I might say Bjergsen's the most underwhelming internationally of those 4.
I'm with you. Mike Young, of course. Rift Rival star. So
yeah, I'm not even counting him as having international experience.
I know you're trolling. I'm trolling.
You're trolling. XD.
All right. I know we didn't get to a lot of your questions because there were a lot of questions. But if you have any more that we didn't get to, you can tweet at Mr. Eric at @I_am_Kummel.
Or Shot Caller Esports.
Or Shot Caller Esports.
Underscore.
Which is at _SE Esports. That makes more sense because it's on the screen. You should do that one.
Yeah, it's easier to remember.
Yeah, but we both have Twitter as well. Doesn't matter. No one cares. Everyone knows we have Twitter.
It's Twitter.
So yeah, hey, hit the subscribe button because we'll keep going up, surpass 20K.
We're climbing thanks to you guys.
That's right. Follow us on Twitter. Send us any questions you have. And I don't know what else I have to say. I guess stay tuned for the power rankings once all the teams are finally announced. Hurry up, 100 Thieves. We're waiting.
As soon as 100 Thieves and Echo Fox make this Huni signing official, they get that bottom lane. We'll be pumping out some videos, kind of looking at those teams, what we think of them, and then power rankings are coming.
They're on their way. So get hyped.
Get hyped.
It'll be interesting. Anyways, we'll be back on Monday, 3 p.m. EST. Get boosted. And next Wednesday, always same time, same place. Everyone, thanks for watching. Have a nice weekend, and we will see you on Monday.